All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something called the Demographic Transition Model, or DTM.
DTM.
So basically this model that tries to map out how birth and death rates change as societies develop, right? And we're especially interested in this thing called stage 5, the final stage.
Okay, the final stage.
Yeah, where we see birth rates kind of plummet, and in some cases, death rates might even start to creep up.
Yeah.
So the big question for today is, are we headed towards a future where, like in these really developed countries, more people are dying than being born?
Right.
What they call natural decrease.
Right.
And if so, what does that even mean for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So in stage 5, one of the key defining features is that you see birth rates actually falling below death rates,
Okay.
which, as you mentioned, leads to this concept of natural decrease.
Right.
And often these birth rates are significantly below what we call the replacement level, which is about 2.1 children per woman.
Right, because you need that many just to keep the population stable.
Exactly, to keep the population stable and without any migration.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we see a real shift in the age structure of the population. You get a larger proportion of older people.
Yeah, because people are living longer.
Exactly. People are living longer, and you have this sustained period of low birth rates.
Okay, so fewer babies and more older people, got it.
Yeah.
But then it's confusing, right?
Yeah.
Because you hear about some of these countries that are in stage 5, supposedly, and they're still growing. How does that even work if there are more deaths than births?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? You'd think that more deaths than births would automatically mean the population's shrinking.
Yeah.
But there's this concept called demographic momentum,
Okay.
which essentially means that even though fewer babies are being born each year, there's still a huge number of young adults
Right.
who will eventually have their own kids.
I see. So it's it takes a while for that to catch up.
Exactly. It takes a while to play out. And then on top of that, of course, there's international migration.
Right.
So a classic example is Germany.
Okay.
They've actually had more deaths than births for quite a while now.
Wow.
But because of immigration, their overall population has continued to grow.
So it's immigration is masking the fact that naturally the population would be shrinking.
Exactly. It makes us really question, what actually defines stage 5?
Yeah.
So while generally having a higher death rate than birth rate is considered a hallmark of stage 5, the actual population change is massively influenced by these migration patterns.
Okay, so natural decrease can be happening, but it might not be obvious in the total numbers.
Right.
Interesting. So we see this natural decrease thing popping up in a bunch of countries considered to be in this stage 5, right?
Yeah.
We mentioned Germany, but what are some other examples?
So you've got Japan, you've got countries like Croatia, Estonia, Greece, Portugal, and Ukraine.
Wow. So it's all over the place. Okay, so we kind of get what stage 5 looks like with this whole natural decrease thing.
Right.
But now let's get into the why. Why are these birth rates plummeting in the first place?
Okay, so there are two big things going on.
Okay.
First, those low fertility rates that we talked about. I mean, kids are expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And the cost of raising a family, particularly in these urban areas, has just skyrocketed.
Especially these days. Yeah.
Yeah. And then women have more career opportunities now.
Oh, for sure.
So there's a real trade-off, Do you focus on your career or do you start a family?
Right. It's a tough decision.
Yeah, tough choices. And on top of that, we've seen a broader cultural shift.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, people are starting to prioritize individual fulfillment and personal goals.
Yeah, more than the traditional family structure, maybe.
Exactly. Plus, there's widespread access to contraception.
Right.
And, of course, greater gender equality.
Yeah, that all makes sense. So it's economic realities combined with changing social values.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about the other driver? You said there were two.
Right. So the second big one is aging populations.
Okay, so people are living longer.
Exactly. And that's thanks to, advancements in healthcare, sanitation, nutrition.
Right, we're all living longer.
Yeah, so even if the rate at which people die at certain ages stays the same or even goes down, the sheer fact that there are so many more older people means that the overall death rate, what we call the crude death rate, can actually go up.
So it's not that people are dying younger.
Right.
It's just that there are more people in the age group where death is more likely.
Exactly.
Got it. And then, we can't forget about those lifestyle diseases that tend to become more common as we age.
Oh, absolutely.
So fewer births, more elderly folks, that explains this whole natural decrease thing.
Right.
But what does it actually mean for these societies? Like, what are the big consequences?
Well, economically speaking, you could see some pretty serious labor shortages,
Ah, yeah.
which could, in turn, affect productivity and economic growth.
Because there just aren't enough people to fill the jobs.
Exactly. And it also puts a huge strain on Social Security and pension systems.
Right, because you've got this smaller working population
Yeah.
trying to support a much larger number of retirees.
Right. And then, of course, there are the healthcare costs.
Yeah, which tend to go up as the population gets older.
Absolutely.
So it's like a triple whammy, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Fewer workers, strained social safety nets, and rising healthcare costs.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just about money, right? Like, there are social consequences too, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. There's a real risk of increased social isolation among older people.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then on a global scale, you might even see shifts in power dynamics as some countries shrink while others continue to grow.
Wow, okay, so given all of this, what can countries actually do about it?
Well, a lot of countries have tried something called pronatalist policies.
What's that?
It's basically like incentives to encourage people to have more babies.
Okay.
Things like financial assistance, parental leave, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
And we've seen a bunch of countries experiment with this. Taiwan, Germany, Russia, South Korea, France, Sweden, Hungary, Poland, Denmark, Singapore, the list goes on.
Wow.
But the thing is, the results have been pretty mixed.
So, like, it hasn't been this magic solution.
No, not really, because often, people's deeply held social values and career aspirations end up having a much stronger influence on their decisions about family size.
Yeah, those are big factors.
Yeah.
Okay, so if just trying to get people to have more babies isn't the answer, what else are countries trying?
So there are a few other strategies they're exploring.
Okay, like one.
One is extending working lives.
Okay.
Like raising the retirement age or offering more flexible retirement options.
So people can work longer if they want to.
Exactly. And then there's a big focus on promoting healthy aging.
Right, so people stay healthier for longer.
Exactly, which helps reduce the burden on the healthcare system.
Yeah.
And then there's the PEC angle.
Oh, interesting.
Leveraging technology and automation to try and offset those labor shortages. So like robots and AI to fill in the gaps.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's always immigration, which can be a really complex issue, but it can potentially help to fill those demographic gaps.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
It is.
Okay, so it sounds like there are a lot of different approaches, but no easy answers.
Pretty much.
It's a really complex issue. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a question for you to think about. Given all this, like the shrinking birth rates, the aging populations, the economic and social challenges,
Right.
what do you think is the most sustainable, long-term strategy for countries dealing with this whole natural decrease thing?
Yeah. Good question.
Let us know what you think.